This is gonna be uncomfortable. Hello people of the internet, welcome back to the highlight reel. So in today's video I took a poll on my Instagram. If you're not following me, I'll have it linked up here on the screen, and you guys were saying that you wanted to hear about my worst date stories over my first love story. So you got it. And on top of that, look at my shirt. I feel like this is fitting. I feel like this is a really good sign. So just to make it a little bit easier, I decided to separate the dates into names. So first, the awkward date, the smelly date, and the boring date, plus an honorable mention because it was really that bad, but it wasn't technically a date. It just really stuck out of my mind, and also I'd like to scrub it out, you know what I mean? So let's just get started. So first, I'm going to preface this by saying all three of the dates that I'm going to talk about today, I met these people on the internet, and then we met up and went on a date. So like, I didn't have this understanding of how they were, their body language, or the type of person they like really truly were until we got on the date. So can you imagine your sis out here in the world just susceptible to anything? Honestly, like, it was quite a dangerous time. Now that I think about it, I could have probably went about it a lot smarter, but I'm here, so let me be a testament. It's not good advice. Okay, so the awkward date, I remember I met this person online, so I'm just gonna call them A for the sake of like ABC, for the sake of like storytelling. So me and A met online, and I remember like our conversations being cool. They were extremely creative, a really good artist, and just overall kind of like someone that I'd want to talk to or be friends with just because we had similar interests. So to my knowledge, they were okay with commuting to me because if you don't know me personally, I don't drive. I mean, I could, but I don't. So a lot of my friends are okay with like coming and scooping me, or like we just meet up, or like I just Uber or Lyft. It's not that big of a deal really. But when I was going on dates, that was like something I had to communicate with people. So I remember them saying like, okay, you know, it's fine, I'll drive closer to your side of town and we'll like meet up at a Starbucks. And I was like, that's cool, we can just kind of like bring our sketchbooks or like bring our materials and like art, and we can just kind of talk. And they're like, yeah, that sounds dope, like I'm down or whatever. Remember that. Remember me saying that to you. So right after, they come pick me up and we go to Starbucks, which honestly, such a sketch scenario now that I think about it, but it's fine. And then we get to Starbucks, and I remember when I was getting out of the car, they came around, like opened my door, and I was like, oh, that's quite nice. Wow, thanks so much. And in the midst of them doing that, they like touched my arm, and they were like, wow, your arm's like really soft and that's really cool. And I was like, thanks. Thanks, I guess. I don't really know how to like reply to that, but thanks, I suppose. I'm somebody who wears like pretty ripped pants, so like my knees are always like exposed. I literally probably own like maybe 2 good pairs of pants. Everything else is just straight up ripped. So also, in addition to them touching my arm, they like touched my kneecap. It makes me cringe just thinking about it. And was like, your knee's really soft too. And I'm like, okay. And when I was going through my bag to get like my markers out and like pencils and pens and stuff, I saw this little figurine, and I was thinking like how funny because I kept it from work. It's a long story, but it was just a really weird thing to have in my bag. So I brought out this figurine, this little white man, and I was like, look at this, how weird is this? It's like still in my bag. I totally forgot about it. And they were like, oh, that'd be cool, let me draw it. And I was like, you can just draw anything? Like, you can just look at anything and draw it? Like, oh my god, that's like really cute or whatever. So they're like, yeah, like, you know, let me just draw really quick. So I'm like, okay, bet. So they take it out, they draw it on like my sketchbook, and it was really cool. Like, it was a really cool moment. And then from that point on, we were like, okay, we've been at Starbucks long enough, let's just like go do something else. But we couldn't really think of anything, and they didn't want to spend a lot of money. So we ended up leaving Starbucks and then going to PetSmart because I was like, well, I'm trying to think of places that we can just walk around and not have to do much, I guess. And that's not really far from this Starbucks, so I was like, PetSmart, bet that's a good choice. I had to go to PetSmart, and at the time I had 2 guinea pigs, which have went on to be with the Lord, may their souls rest in peace, and I have a rabbit, which you know is Baker. He's still alive, thank God. So I decided to get some stuff for the both of them, like some snacks, just to kind of take back home and make the experience a little bit different, so I wouldn't just be walking around PetSmart for nothing. Looking at the animals, we're kind of having small talk, I guess, and then it got weird. I was standing next to them and we're just looking at like different products, and they were like trying to be playful, I guess, and like flirty, I suppose. And they started like pulling at my shirt and like kind of like roughing me up a little bit. And I remember being like, okay, first of all, don't wrinkle my shirt. And second of all, who you think you touching? Like I literally was so uncomfortable because of how like aggressive almost they were acting, and I didn't really know how to communicate that to them, but I definitely was like, okay, this is making me uncomfortable. I was like, hey, it's making me uncomfortable. Okay, I said that, then the vibe was kind of weird, but it kind of like made a recovery, I feel like, after that. So me and A go back to my house and decide to talk a little bit more just so that we could kind of get to know each other before they would leave. And they also went on to express to me that it was really stressful getting to my side of town. Like, it was a lot of construction, and they like almost cried, and they were like super uncomfortable. And I'm thinking, like, I didn't realize you were so new and unfamiliar to the area that it would have stressed you to come this way. Like, I could have definitely like met you halfway, or like maybe come up with a different idea for a date, but whatever. By that time it was too late. Like, you were already literally in front of my home. Like, I am completely cringing in my seat, and then they go on to say, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Like, apologizing and like backtracking. I'm just like, first of all, I haven't even had a second to process what you just did. Second of all, you're making this so much more uncomfortable than necessary, like, honestly. And third of all, can I just really get out this car? Like, I'm really over this date. When I tell you, I might have communicated with them afterwards, but like nothing too heavy. And I just went on to decide that like this wasn't gonna work for me. Like, I just honestly cannot be bothered. I'm sorry, but this is just not gonna work. I gave my little spiel, I said my little piece, and I went on to like let that go. And ironically enough, I still follow them on Instagram because they are a superb artist. So moving on to date number 2, the Smelly Date. So just to kind of give them a nickname so it's really easy to know who I'm talking about, I'm gonna nickname them Smiley because they had a very boisterous laugh and was very full of life for the most part, and I feel like that's a good representation of them. So me and Smiley had known each other for quite a while. Another person that I met on the internet, but also someone that I was really active in knowing on like Tumblr and other social medias. Like, it wasn't just one place. I knew of them in a lot of different areas, so I felt like I kind of got a good sense of who they were. Whenever they came to visit, they lived in like another town kind of far away from me. They were going to their friend's graduation, and that particular day I was at work. I was like legitimately in my work uniform. I've worked in food service for quite a many what? I've worked in food service for quite a few years, so I've always had like a uniform, or like I've always smelled like foodie or like something gross, basically. So I remember them saying, well, I'm gonna go to my friend's graduation and then I'm gonna come hang out with you, or we can like go get like ice cream or something, or like do something that's like a date, you know, some type of date idea. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm down, I'm hip, I'm young, I'm like, you know, spontaneous, whatever. So I remember telling Smiley that it would be really cool if I had the opportunity to go home and maybe shower, change my clothes, just to kind of get like a little bit more refreshed. And Smiley was like, no, I don't have that much time, and I'm gonna try to be back before it gets dark, so I'm just gonna come see you right after you get off work. That was probably red flag number 1, to be completely honest. So they don't know this, but right after I got off work, there's like a Target kind of like near my job, And I ended up walking over to the Target and literally buying a new shirt, a new pair of pants, some deodorant, and like a new pair of shoes, like just like some cheapy little shoes that I could just throw on. Yeah, it was that crucial. I literally changed my clothes in the Target bathroom for a date because I didn't want to go on the date and smell nasty. If that's a dedication, I don't know what is. So once Smiley gets to Target and we meet up and we see each other for the first time, we're like having like a moment where we're like, oh, this is what you look like in person. This is like you actually in front of me. We've been talking online for a really, really long time. So this is like kind of cool to actually see the person at some point. And we met in a neutral territory because I guess I was smart then and then I just progressively became stupid. So we met in a neutral territory and things were a lot more like safe, I guess. Once we left Target, like the parking lot, I got in Smiley's car and we just drove kind of like across the parking lot to a froyo place. This is when Smiley becomes smelly, okay? So we're in the car and Smiley's like, oh, don't mind my car. I don't know if there's like a water leak or something, but it smells like mildew in here. I was like, oh, it's fine. Like literally it smelled like leaving your towels in the washer and like not switching them over quick enough, or like having like some kitchen towels and you need to like, well, it just smelled so bad. But apparently because it had rained maybe beforehand, it leaked into the car and then it made the car smell nasty, and I was just in the car like, said help. We ended up getting froyo and then I just vaguely remember Smiley, which is quite fitting, laughing so loudly and like their mouth being like this, like I mean like open, like so open, and me kind of being uncomfortable because they were laughing so intensely, just because like I don't know, like it was just like kind of obnoxious, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I was like, well, I'm kind of hungry, you know, I did get off work and I haven't eaten in a while, so we ended up going to Chick-fil-A and just like sitting in the Chick-fil-A parking lot and eating some nugs. And only I ate. So I was like, this is very uncomfortable. Like, honestly. Once I finished eating, I was kind of talking to Smiley, kind of trying to get to know them, learn more about them, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then Smiley kisses me. Now, mind you, unlike the awkward date, this was a little bit different because I was more engaged. I wanted to do this. It wasn't like they were planting it on me and making me like uncomfortable or whatever. So it was a little bit different and a little more enjoyable, but still yet kind of awkward. So after that, Smiley's like, okay, well, you know, I have to get back to my town and I want to get back before it's too dark. So I'm like, okay, you know, it's fine, we can leave. So on the way back to my house to drop me off, now I don't know about you, but the music people play in the car is a really good indicator of like their interest and like the type of person they are. And Smiley was playing this song that was literally so uncomfortable. It was like one of those songs that is really sexual, but it's like a joke. It's like singing about butts, you know, like it's not really like that fun of a song for somebody who doesn't find it funny. It's more just kind of uncomfortable, I guess. And Smiley knew all of the words. So I'm literally in the car like literally like uncomfortable, like I don't know what is up, but like all of the dates in this storyline are just uncomfortable encounters. Like I don't know how that happened, but they just are. Pretty much wraps up the day. I get back to my house, Smiley drops me off, rides off into the sunset. I did end up talking to Smiley for a bit after that, off and on, but never anything that was like a legit relationship, or we didn't even go on another date. That was like the end of it. So yeah, that's the end of date number 2, the smelly date. So now on to the boring date. I mean, like, snooze fest me. Which, once I tell you what we did, you're gonna be like, how is that boring? But it's more to do with the person than the activity, if that makes any sense. For the sake of this date, I'm gonna call this person Slick because they had really slick hair. It was like a pompadour. It was like cut really nice, and I remember being really impressed by it. So we met online, and this particular instance was kind of nice because it was quite an organic conversation. We got to know each other really easily. We didn't have any kind of hitches or like any weird moments in our conversations. It was just oftentimes they were not very funny, like even when they were trying to be, and it was kind of a boring conversation sometimes. So I found myself kind of just laughing so that that sounds so bad. I found myself kind of laughing so that it wouldn't be awkward because I didn't think it was funny, if that makes any sense. I just didn't want them to feel bad that I wasn't laughing at their jokes. Me and Slick ended up going out to dinner, and it was a good time. The date was kind of a whirlwind. I don't feel like I remember that many details because we didn't do that much. We literally just went to dinner and then ended the night, and I went back to my house, and we kind of went on about our business, honestly. But the date was really nice. It was like a nice place to go to dinner. I believe it was like BJ's. If you have a BJ's in your area, then you know BJ's is kind of a nice restaurant. And they drove like a really high jacked up truck. Like I had to jump into the truck. They opened the door for me. Slick was really nice. Slick was like really good looking. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. Like, oh my gosh. And I just remember thinking like this could be very promising. Now, at this point, you're probably asking me, why didn't it work out if that date was so well, right? Well, we ended up going on a second date, and that's a difference in a lot of these themes because the first two dates didn't get a second date because they were just that bad and that lackluster. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. We ended up going to the zoo on our second date, and honestly, that was a good decision because I love the zoo. I love animals. I love kind of going to museums and creative places, so I thought this would be a good idea. Also, if I'm gonna go on a more boring date, meaning like not very eventful, I would hope that at least the conversation is gonna kind of carry us through. Is that too much to ask? That we're not kind of sitting in silence. That was kind of the theme in the first two dates, which is why they didn't make it to a second one. And once we got to the zoo, it was really easy. We obviously drove in, parked, got the tickets, and started walking around. So what really stuck out to me about this date is that Slick wanted to hold my hand the entire date. And I brought my camera. I was hoping to take photos. I had a blog at the time, so I was doing a lot of like photo ops. I was really getting into photography at the beginning of like my journey. Well, the date actually ended up going fairly well. We went back to my house and kind of ended the day, and it was really nice. I mean, like, it was a really nice date. I'm not gonna lie, like both of those dates were pretty nice, but I still felt like bored and kind of like not stimulated, if that makes any sense. I need to be in an engaging conversation. I like to really get into intellect and what's going on in the world and just kind of be a little bit more involved, and I just felt like on both of those dates it was very one note. Okay, and might I add, Slick was not African American, and I just remember feeling like every time we would talk about something and try to relate, they would just bring up all these stories about their ex and how their ex was black and their ex put them on to all these black things, and so it just felt like you thought that I would understand and relate to that because now you know about them. I don't know, it was such a weird concept. But yeah, I don't have any regrets. All these dates were for a reason. I feel like, even though they were honestly terrible, and I ended up being in like a really nice relationship now, so I feel like that's a really good end cap. So this story is going to be about the honorable mention, and honestly I don't even want to give this person too much of my brain capacity because they frustrated me that much. I'm not even kidding. Once I tell you what kind of person they are, you're gonna be like, sis, how did you survive? And I'm like, girl, I really barely did. So I'm gonna call this person Pig because that's exactly what they were. Like, honestly, to a T. Like, every single aspect of their personality that I was able to witness, an absolute pig. So this was back in 2016 when I was just starting to do expediting as a job, and I was kind of getting more extensive in food service, which is kind of the industry that I have the most experience in. And expediting just means assembling plates and orders and making sure every plate looks nice and it gets out to the tables very quickly. So I'm assembling orders, I'm like super busy all the time, and Pig worked kind of like face to face with me because they worked in the kitchen and I worked on the outside of the kitchen, like in the window. So we were always facing each other all the time. At this point, I worked early in the morning to the afternoon and they worked afternoon to nights. So whenever they would get to work, I was already there, and they would always say like, "Hey, Miss Tori." I'm like, who is that? Who is that? My name is Tori, unless I tell you to call me anything else. That is like high-key my biggest pet peeve on the planet. You're not actually going to tell me what I'm going to be called. I don't feel like that's too ridiculous of a request. So Pig was calling me Miss Tori or Tori or some like variety or something like that, and I was always correcting Pig every time they would say it. So it was kind of on my nerves at this point that you just continually would call me that and just not care. I mean to tell you, every time they would see me, it was swooning, it was, "Oh, hey, how you doing? How you doing today?" Really just kind of being honestly a little bit inappropriate for the workplace, considering the fact that I've expressed that I'm not interested in you. And everybody that we work with knows that, but they all think it's cute or it's funny that you're always hitting on me in the workplace. Just not cool. And at some point I realized that Pig would always talk about other women in a very derogatory light. I mean, they would always talk about other women as if they were a piece of meat or they weren't as pretty as me, so they didn't deserve the same respect that you were giving me, which rubbed me the wrong way completely, because not only am I not asking for your attention or affection, but you're giving it to me unwarranted, and you're disrespecting other women in the process. And if you thought that my camaraderie was going to be to you versus these people that you're talking trash about, you're wrong. After work, I felt like Pig had worn me down so much that I just was like, okay, let's just see what this is even about. I didn't change up my work clothes, we didn't even go on a date, but we just kind of hung out right after work. So I was in Pig's car, so ironic of a name. I was in Pig's car and Pig was saying, well, you know, I make music, I rap, I have like a mixtape, download my app, do you have an Android, get my app? And I was like, okay, I guess I can. And then all the way to my home, they played their music in the car. And then went on to say, I only listen to my music because I know it's good. I'm just confused. Did I ask? Did I ask? Did I ask? Did I ask? But did I ask? So after Pig said that, I'm like, okay, let me like try to actually listen to their music and see if it's really good or not. And they were talking really reckless, you know, calling women bees and hoes and whatever else. And then I was like, so you think women are queens and like you talk about women like so highly, but you talk about them like this in your song and you talk about this in your music? And Pig was like, that's not me, that's not really how I am, I just say that type of stuff for the music. And I thought, can I be any more disappointed at this point? Probably not. Let's be honest, sis. Probably not. I just kind of dealt with it. At this point, I was nearly to my home and I was just gonna have to deal with it. So once we got to my neighborhood, I tried to give Pig the best directions so that it wouldn't be so hard to get out, because at the time I lived in a neighborhood that had a lot of lefts and rights before you ever got to my home. Like I was literally at the very back of the neighborhood. So I was like, okay, make a left, make a right. And then they said something like, man, this is confusing, how am I gonna get out? At this point I was like, you know what, my house is right here, you don't have to drive any further, this is where my house is. And I had to make it seem as believable as possible so that they wouldn't think that I was just telling them to drop me off and like I don't even want to be in the car anymore, because mind you, I still work with this person. So if the encounter is too strange, it's just gonna make for a really trash work experience after this. So I was like, yeah, this is my house right here, it's no problem, you can just drop me off. That was not my house, okay? I don't know who those people were, okay? I've never even met those people, okay? I walked literally 4 or 5 blocks to my home from that fake house because I just didn't even want Pig to know where I lived. I didn't want them to know which house was mine. I didn't want to hear their mouths anymore about how hard it was to get in my neighborhood. I was honestly feeling like, you wanted my time. I don't even have to be here. I like you about this much, and that's just because I like to see the good in people. So I can leave at any point in time. I just wanted to make sure that our encounter was as normal as possible, so that when we got back to work it wasn't super awkward and I wasn't majorly uncomfortable. But it's definitely safe to say that once I got home, I was like, look, it's confirmed. I don't like this person. I'm not talking to them. I know how they think. I know how they are. I've done the best I can to maybe see the better in them, but they're just whack. So we can go ahead and move on. Okay, we can move on, right? My eyes. I feel like whenever I film without my glasses, I'm literally a wreck. Okay, so don't mind the glasses change because I was really suffering for y'all. Like, whenever I don't film without my glasses, it's like I can barely see. I not only can barely see, but my eyes are like not focusing and it's just really uncomfortable. But I hate the glare. That's why I don't film with them. Anyway, if you guys like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye!